The Spinoff Podcast Network.
Are you making the most of your KiwiSaver investment? Generate is an award-winning KiwiSaver provider with a track record of strong long-term performance. Making a smart decision now could add tens of thousands of dollars by the time you reach retirement. Book a no-obligation chat with a Generate KiwiSaver advisor today at generatekiwisaver.co.nz/get-advice. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Kia ora tātou, welcome to Gone By Lunchtime. I'm Toby Manhire, and with me are Ben Thomas and Annabelle Lee. I feel like we haven't done this for ages. It feels like a long time. Does it feel like that to you?
It's been an age.
And I think that's because I've sort of been cheating on you guys with this Auckland Warcast thing, which, look, I enjoy, but it's not the same, you know? It's like it's getting the band back together.
It's like local government. It's small time.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's The Hui going? Annabelle Lee is the executive producer of New Zealand's best television current affairs, The Hui, on TV3, Sunday mornings from 9:30.
Yes, we're doing very well. We are now running until December 3rd alongside The Nation, so there's a bit more extra huiing going to happen.
It's a lot of television.
It's a lot of television. I think we're 22 eps, 23 eps in now.
That's fantastic. How are you, Ben?
Yeah, great.
Are you doing lots of hardcore lobbying on behalf of your tyrannical tyrant to clients?
Just telling the truth well, as always.
Are you winning?
The truth will always out.
You
can try and keep a lid on it, but it always comes to the fore.
We've got a lot to talk about today. We might talk about Winston Peters, about whether there'll be an early election, about Labour staff jettisoning, about John Key going to the UN in New York, about the Māori King, but we really want to start with the most important issues of the day. Actually, before we get to that, I was going to say a quick word to Nikki Kay, whose great class and distinction was shown by the fact that she came up here to do a podcast at the Spinoff the other week. There are lots of other reasons why she's a very cool woman, and she's had some terrible news and has been diagnosed with breast cancer, and so we're just going to toast our cup of teas to Nikki Kay, who we love.
Here, kia piki te ora.
To you, Nikki. I'm sure that you are filling your time by listening to our podcast. The really pressing stuff that we have to get to as well, two big stories. The first one, which I want to touch on briefly, is the headline, Jonathan Coleman denies snorting fake cocaine. That is one of the best political headlines of the year, am I wrong?
This is, Jonathan Coleman embroiled in a fake scandal on the North Shore. There's been a lot of talk about the decline in quality of the New Zealand Herald website recently. This is really kind of plunging.
Totally disagree. Great story. Health Minister denies snorting fake cocaine.
What was it that they were snorting if it wasn't cocaine?
It was like icing sugar.
Like sherbet.
It was a
sherbet with a straw.
parents' fundraising ball or something at a North Shore school. You must know all about these things.
No, I avoid these things like the plague.
Wasn't it last year that some schools over the other side of the bridge, sent round sort of circulars to parents telling them not to do real drugs at their school events?
I think that might have been Western Springs.
Yeah, we don't need the Herald calling out North Shore parents for being uncool. In the newspaper of record, all these sneering Ponsonby and Grey Lynn parents going like icing sugar.
I think we've covered that exhaustively. The other big story of the week, of course, is a rug that has been made, which depicts a nude Andrew Little. Ben, can I have your thoughts on the rug?
The art.
Yeah.
It's been described as the worst piece of carpet-based art since Variations in Apricot on the third floor of the Parliament building. Look, my thoughts are on it. Andrew Little handled it pretty well. The ensuing media. I think he said that he said that the pecs and biceps might have been rendered a little too big, but other than that, he was happy. And when this important matter was followed up with the Prime Minister said that he wasn't interested in comparing himself with Andrew Little. Now, this is to the best of my knowledge the first time the Prime Minister has ever declined to talk about his junk in public, and for that, which means that during his entire political career, the only times John Key has ever backed down or been made to back down was by Winston Peters in the Northland by-election, Judith Collins in her reinstatement to cabinet, and by Andrew Little's carpet dig.
Hot take. Annabelle, we have prepared you for this, but I'm going to show you. You haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen
I'm
it.
going to show you this artwork from a Whanganui artist at the Wallace Art Awards of Andrew Little on a rug in a frame with his junk out. Here we go. Let's listen.
Oh my God, his junk is actually, it's a very generous interpretation, I would have thought. Wow.
Do you feel like this could potentially change the path of New Zealand politics?
Only if he's like considering a future in the porn industry, but I have no words. I have nothing to say. This is if I had to pick between this and the Helen Clark, signing the fake picture scandal, I would have preferred to have brought Helen's pretend art rather than that one, to be fair.
I'd like to apologise to everyone for having to visualise that.
Don't Google it, people.
From the sublime to the ridiculous, Winston Peters has been everywhere in the news. Going backwards, I guess, most recently with this sort of slightly deja vu donation mini scandal, with it turning out he or his party, he's very keen to emphasise, had been the recipient of a cheque from the leader of this new immigrant party.
Literally nothing ever changes with Winston. As you pointed out, I think on the Spinoff, the jokes are the same every year. The slogans are the same, the issues are the same, and even the scandals are the same. So this is just a callback to the great days of 2008, when the entire election year basically was consumed in this donations scandal, with Winston Peters denying that he received donations from millionaire businessman Owen Glenn, and then this kind of madcap, ensemble chase around New Zealand to try and isolate where this money came from, where it went, and whether Winston ever actually received it. And he went around the country with his sign that he held up saying no, and we saw flashes of it. This incredible passing of semantics that Winston gets engaged in, where he says, I never got the check. I never put a check in my pocket. I never received the money. And then you sort of say, well, did the party receive the money? And he's like, well, that's a different matter. It's,
It's a different matter, you moron journalist. Demonstrably. What do you reckon, Annabelle? Is it just, is it kind of,
why
is
would
this
we
more
expect
old Uncle Wilson?
why would we expect anything different? This is what he always does. And I mean, New Zealand obviously doesn't mind very much because we keep returning him to Parliament. He seems
to be getting stronger too. I mean,
he does. Yeah, I think we're really sort of hitting a sweet spot for Winston at the moment. Like all his rhetoric is perfectly pitched to what's currently happening in New Zealand. So he will be hitting his strides, no doubt.
Yeah, and he's got the
people don't care about a $3,000 check. I don't think. No, it's not going to hurt him.
No, I don't think
it never has before.
And with the Conservative Party currently in a sort of state of disarray, does it even exist anymore? Colin Craig is in court against Jordan Williams in one of the most potentially entertaining legal battles of our times. But so he can soak up a bit of that vote. And the other thing, I mean, I watched his speech on the internet from Dunedin at their conference on the weekend. And while people are right that it is kind of, there is a little bit of stuck record about it and that there's lots of familiar tropes. The thing that I thought he did more than he has in the past, I know it's been there, is he was really nailing the commentariat, and he was really nailing the institutional elites. And I think, he's a smart bugger, right? I think he's awake to the fact of what's been going on in the UK with the Farage-led Brexit stuff. He's awake to what's happening with lots of the dissatisfaction in America. I mean, this is kind of smart politics, isn't it, Ben?
Oh, no one's ever accused him of not being smart at politics. And the thing is, as I know from experience, I've been waiting for the 90s revival about 20 years now. And Winston Peters, I think, is in pretty much the same boat. If you stay the course, eventually you'll come back into fashion. And and when you look at things like immigration, when the Prime Minister was on the Leighton Smith show on Friday, and all of the questions were about immigration. These things do come around again, particularly when people think that they're not getting a fair share. When you've got the Prime Minister actually saying, we'll bring people in to do the jobs that lazy New Zealanders don't want to do, and people see that they're not getting ahead. People see, leaving aside the question of whether you'd work for minimum wage in Auckland, knowing that, you're not even going to cover your rent rise, people will get dissatisfied. And that's the sort of fertile ground for New Zealand First. I mean, the other thing in his advantage, is that actually the reaction to Winston Peters over the past 2 decades has kind of led us to have a situation where our debate about immigration is actually a little bit immature. It tends to be that if you even raise the issue of immigration, suddenly you get, you're a racist like Winston Peters,
Yeah.
Although where in the world is there a mature debate about immigration? I mean, I kind of grow tired of people saying what we need to have is a mature conversation about immigration. And just show me one.
No, look, absolutely. It always raises passions. But, for instance, we are heading into an election year which is really going to play into Winston Peters' hands. Look at the controversy over the export education sector, i.e. foreign students. I mean, it's been a pretty open secret for the last decade or so that most of that sort of $500 million a year industry is actually a kind of scam, perpetrated either on students coming here or on the immigration authorities in New Zealand.
I think John Key's right when he says people like stable government, and ironically that's what New Zealand First and Winston Peters now represents. His party is not having an eternal identity crisis the way that Labour is. He's managed to shepherd his MPs quite cleanly through this parliamentary term, which is unusual for New Zealand First because they're full of political naive opportunists who tend to implode once they get into Parliament. He hasn't had that this cycle. The issues around immigration, I think, everything is lining up to play right into his hands. And it might sound old hat, but there's a generation of increasingly more New Zealanders, not just a generation of New Zealanders who like what they're hearing from him, who like what he represents, and he'll be an important player after the election, no doubt.
Plus, a few new policy ideas at the conference. I particularly like the one of getting old New Zealand First voters into schools to teach driving
driving instruction.
Driving instruction, so
New Zealand.
A new generation of kids can have their own sort of hunt for the wilder people / up style adventure with some borderline racist grandparent figures, across New Zealand.
I feel like this is a major potential strike against the generational warfare that's opening up, thanks to these belligerent people at the Spinoff and so on, who are attempting to, forge these gaps between the generations. This is when you've got people teaching other people how to drive, you come together, you learn about each other. I think this is quite a big moment. And Shane Jones is a big moment.
Oh yeah, shall we all feign surprise about Māoridom's worst kept secret that Shane Jones is allegedly going to stand for New Zealand First?
I'm more interested in the news that Shane Jones is allegedly going to write a book. I mean, we could be waiting a few elections.
It's pretty exciting. I mean, so Shane Jones in Whangarei is the talk. Not that Winston Peters could possibly have had a conversation with Shane Jones about that, because that would be inappropriate, because Shane Jones is
absolutely inappropriate. I loved the raw self-righteousness and offended tone he took with Guy on when he was asked about that. Disgusting. How could you even imply? It was great. But I think, the Shane Jones-Winston Peters combo is an interesting one, and he has to... a very delicate situation, isn't it? Because he doesn't want to get offside with Ron Mark just before the election and have everything implode. And it's been said that Ron Mark would be really put out by Shane Jones, and he absolutely would be, and with good reason.
Because of the succession we're thinking about mostly. Yeah?
Absolutely, because he's worked hard. He's been a safe pair of hands. You know, he does pretty well in his electorate. He doesn't try to upstage Winston. He takes care of, you know, some of the Māori stuff, Māori issues quite well. So Winston has to be, and he's got strong support within the, you know, there's a sector of New Zealand First that do staunchly support Ron Mark. So it's a delicate one, not to mention Shane's diplomatic career, which of course must be preserved and his mana must remain intact. So it'll be interesting to see how they play it out over the next few months. But the other thing I want to mention about Shane Jones is, in terms of Labour and the kingitanga and what we saw happen there, Labour has keenly felt the loss of Shane Jones during this period, because Shane Jones is the kind of guy that in Māoridom can crisis manage on his feet.
Yeah.
So if he'd been at Tūranga Waiwai, he would have got up, he would have challenged the kingitanga, he would have made a joke about it, he would have got them all back on side, he would have taken the mickey out of the Māori party and then equally whakamana'd them, and everyone would have gone home happy and it would have been contained and left on the paipai. Even though there's some great speakers within Labour, like Penny Henare, who is a very eloquent, you know, speaker of te reo and very astute in te ao Māori, he doesn't have that swag and that self-confidence that Shane Jones had. And so for New Zealand First to have someone like him, I think, you know, will be a real feather to their bow. Is that, no, not a feather to their bow, a cap. Feather, cap,
string to their bow,
feather in their coat.
And a feather in their cap.
Yeah, it's feathers for their violin, no doubt.
It's like New Zealand First. It's just an assortment of items.
It's just drawing a bit of a long bow. Wind back a bit, Annabelle. So for people who haven't caught up with on Tūranga Waiwai, there was a scene where Andrew Little was sitting at the front and Māori King was doing his thing.
Well, allegedly...
And then a golf cart
zipped in.
Because word got to Andrew
up.
Little that he was about to be dissed.
Lambasted, yeah.
Tell us what happened.
Well, apparently, you know, at the end of the coronation week, so it was a 10-year coronation of Kingi to Heitia, and, you know, at the end, the king gets up and he delivers his annual address, which was allegedly written by Tuku Morgan, although the bit where he got stuck into Labour, apparently he went off script and these were his own whakaaro ideas that he was sharing. So Andrew Little was there representing Labour, and apparently, I don't know how true this is, but word got out, I don't know where or how, that he was going to get clipped, and a golf cart came and scooped him up and off they went, and he went and sat in the Koru Lounge and waited to go back to Wellington or wherever it was he was heading. And Heitia said that he was disappointed in Labour, he would no longer be supporting them, and that he was instead going to support the Māori Party, which of course is now being led by Tuku Morgan in his role as president.
Overseen. Yeah. So Tuku Morgan suddenly kind of, you know, I personally, I've forgotten about him for a while, and then he just sort of explodes back into Māori politics.
Oh, no, he's been there the whole time. Yeah. You guys just didn't know about it. In te ao Māori, every tuku is a major mover and shaker, and in government circles as well, Ben.
Yeah. He oversaw the $200 million Waikato River settlement with Waikato Tainui, and he's often in touch. You know, he moves in those very elevated circles in a way that I think their previous presidents, you know, who've all been extremely impressive individuals, maybe haven't.
And he did some Ngāpuhi stuff too, called in by the government to negotiate between Tūhoro Nuku and Te Kotahitanga, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but in the space of maybe 6 weeks or so, he's kind of transformed the choreography of it all, or the dynamic, and that he's sort of built bridges between Māori Party and Mana.
Yeah.
And then basically, you know, defenestrated the Labour Party's
it's incredible
kingitanga credentials. Yeah.
It's incredible because, you know, people were writing off the Māori Party's chances in the next election. People thought, you know, Te Ururoa would be back, but anything on top of that would be, you know, unexpected and a pleasant surprise. But it's and who knows, it's early days. It might just be, talk. It might run out of steam. Can they keep the momentum going? Can they keep their own internal politics tidy until the election? I don't know. But to see the turnaround in fortunes of the Māori Party and the feeling, at a grassroots level towards them is something to behold, Ben?
Yeah, it's interesting. It brings the Tainui seat back into play, and it really calls into doubt Nanaia Mahuta's future. She used to be mooted as a future successor to King Te Heiria, and now she's sort of talking about whether she, weighing up whether she'll even stand again. So whether that's a power play sort of in the Kingi-Tanga movement or a power play within Labour, I guess we don't know right now.
On Labour, another sort of feels like another kind of conversation about difficult times for Labour.
Is this the irony that Labour is suffering from a labour shortage?
That's very good. I was going to make a joke about Andrew Little's staff.
That's good too.
So Labour staff have been running for the hills. The Chief of Staff, Matthew McCartan, has moved to Auckland in some mysterious. Of course, that was always the planned move. Sarah Stewart left some weeks ago. She was the Chief Press Secretary. 2 other press secretaries have gone to other jobs. It's not,
I'm surprised Matt lasted as long as he did in Wellington under Little, because he was Cunliffe's guy, wasn't he? He was brought in by Cunliffe. So for him to stay as long as he had, I was actually surprised by. I thought they would have shipped him off somewhere else earlier. But I think, doing something like, if it's genuine and he is actually going to be setting up an office, I think that kind of plays to Matt's strengths. He's good at that kind of hitting the ground running kind of situation. He's full of enthusiasm and stuff for that kind of gig.
If it was really, this was always the plan, don't worry, surely you would do that in a neat move where you go and look, here's our new Chief of Staff, and this has all been so beautifully organised rather than having all these empty chairs.
Rob Hosking said in a piece in the NBR, on the NBR website today, what's remarkable isn't that people are leaving, it's the problems they're having replacing them. Because when you look at it realistically, if you were the Chief Press Secretary or the Chief of Staff to the Leader of the Opposition right now, if they win the election, you'll be the Chief of Staff or the Chief Press Secretary to the Prime Minister in 12 months' time. So
you should be thinking that.
So this in terms of I predict that predictions market, which sort of went bust about a year ago. Yeah, obviously people aren't putting a big percentage chance on Andrew Little or Labour being in a position to form a government in the next election. Now, but on the other, it's particularly pronounced in Labour. But if you look at it, the Greens had a bit of a defection,
gone through
a mini flurry earlier this year. Andrew Campbell left.
All of their press secretaries go in just about.
And look, the government is actually, has its own recruitment problems. There's a lot of vacancies in ministerial offices right now, and they're not necessarily filling. Top flight.
Have you been tempted by any of those offers, Ben?
I haven't received any offers. They're probably not that desperate yet. But what I think it actually reflects is, at least partially, is part of it's the time in the cycle we are, 1 year out from an election. But the other thing is Winston Peters. I don't think either side is totally confident that it will be in government, because all the polls show that
the Dark Prince
that will be a decision for Winston Peters to make, not necessarily the voters of New Zealand.
I guess the best spin on it is that it's happening a year out from an election, notwithstanding the possibility of a snap election, which I think is pretty slim despite the excitements of Rob Hosking and your man Matthew Hooton. At least it's being done a year out rather than 6 months out.
Oh, look, the departure of those sort of stuff 6 months out would be a disaster. You would have actually effectively you would have started the election campaign. But look, there's nothing decisive about this. And like I said, I think it reflects a broader uncertainty, not just sort of despair within the Labour camp.
And another departure is Kevin Hague, and about the Greens spokesperson on health, who again one might interpret, he's denied this, but one might interpret his departure as a tacit acknowledgement that there may not be a Labour Green government in which he would have been in pole position to be health minister.
Well, yeah, they've been waiting a long time, haven't they? I can imagine that under current polling there's nothing too encouraging, and if you've been on the opposition benches that long, another 3 years in opposition isn't that not a very appealing prospect, is it?
Hague lost the battle for the leadership, the co-leadership to James Shaw.
Yeah.
And, this happens quite a bit. If you lose one of these battles, you kind of wait a polite time and then just sort of...
So you don't look like a sour...
I think he was really dignified in that, because I think it really hit him hard. I think he really felt he should be the guy. And, I think given all that, he's handled it pretty well, though. It's interesting that the Green Party senior positions are now, in effect, escalator onto leading NGOs.
NGOs that are environmentally connected, yeah.
Early election, do we need to talk about that? Is there going to be a snap election? It's so much fun to talk about, but really?
The enthusiasm with which people have embraced the idea, wherever it came from, sort of rumours or whatever, I think shows that, there's not a lot going on right now.
We're bored. Well, to be fair, this did arise before the denial of the fake cocaine and also the private members rug.
Yeah.
There will be this sort of series of by-elections, where or by-elections that are delayed, like Pakuranga. And I think there's a sense that, the government is already kind of in election mode. During recess weeks, the Prime Minister is in a hairnet and factory.
A lot of hivers. The hivers already.
Yeah, and he's doing full days with talkback shows. Apart from a couple of really key pieces of legislation, the GCSB and SIS reform, there's not really a lot happening between now and now and when the election would naturally be called. Maybe it is better for everyone to just get on with it. That said, I don't think it's likely.
Get on with what? An election?
Get on with an election. Just, start...
Ben's bored.
Ben's bored.
Ben's bored.
Can we get
an
this
election.
message could you get the Prime Minister on the phone, Jose? Ben's bored.
John Kardashian.
That was one of Winston's lines.
I love that. What was it? All photo opportunities and no substance? Something like that.
Photo opportunities and shallow blokiness, I think was the line. I have power ranked the sick burns in Winston Peters' speech on Sunday.
I enjoyed
for you
that
on
read.
The Spinoff.
It's a good read, people. You will LOL, literally.
What else have we got?
UN?
The UN. John Key is off to the UN.
Sorry, I forgot about the other important business this government needs to take care of.
While all the other
peace in the Middle East.
While all these other buggers are in China for the G20, clinking their glasses and talking about how much they love them, John Key says, "Fuck that! I'm going to New York and I'm going to fix Syria." We're
dealing with the big stuff. The big stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the unitary plan and apply it to Israel-Palestine. You can have special housing areas, high-density housing in Jerusalem. Yep. We've got it all sorted.
This is a really good idea. I'm going to steal this for my column this week.
Pay attention, world.
Unitary plan.
We're going to build them. Macaulay's going to build Syria a beautiful abattoir. People will feel good.
What Bashar al-Assad needs to understand is that it's all about the rural-urban boundary. Minimum apartment sizes.
Sorted.
And
look, good opportunity to take David Shearer off the opposition.
Do you think that
take him as an attaché?
Well, wasn't that one of the? There was talk about him getting a special position as a a bit of
talk that he might be Shane Jones,
special New Zealand rapporteur to the
diplomatic corps. Yeah, well, look, there's a guy with first-hand experience in that part of the world. Very good operator in that sense. Look, it's that, or if you're picking from the rest of our diplomatic resources, maybe take Jonesy.
He could fix it, couldn't he? Few crayfish. Yeah. Hey guys, come round, etc.
Do you think the rest of the world has looked at the agenda and gone, "Oh my God, they're such dicks"? New Zealand addicts? Or do you think, oh, cute?
Well,
it's so cute. Be ambitious, New Zealand. Good on you.
Norway's done well, hasn't it? Norway's done well. I mean, most of that fell to pieces, but they've done well traditionally on being the kind of peace broker. And although I think basically it's pretty funny, I did hear McCulley on the radio the other day and I thought, well, it's better that they do table something and have a go at it than not, isn't it? To be for very, very briefly and fleetingly sincere. But enough of that. Helen Clark. That's the other thing that the Prime Minister is going to do in his New York. He's going to possibly slightly more tricky than fixing the Middle East. He's going to help Helen Clark emerge from the middle of the pack, mid-table mediocrity, with 7 discouraged votes from the 15 of the... Was it 8 even?
I think 8, yeah.
Is that, for lost cause?
I think Marama Fox may have cast one of those votes. I like that McCulley is sitting out. Did you see that? He's going to sit out on one of the votes because, with the power and influence that New Zealand wields globally, it's only fair to the other candidates that McCulley should sit out of that one, and I applaud him for doing so.
This is the thing, right? I mean, you see the kind of blowback that the United States and China get from sort of wielding their geopolitical power so sort of bluntly on the world stage, and we need to make sure that that's not New Zealand.
Yeah, that's right.
Installing the new Secretary General.
That's enough. We've got a whole bowl of pineapple lumps to get through now, guys. Thanks, Ben Thomas. Thanks, Annabelle Lee. It's really good getting the band back together. Thanks, Jose Barbosa, producer extraordinaire. Thanks to all the people who paid to make the spin-off happen. I have no idea who you are. We'll be back with another Gone By Lunchtime soon. I'm Toby Manhire, and this is Juggernaut, the story of the Fourth Labour Government. A podcast in 6 parts.
Doesn't give my opponents much time to run up to an election, does it?
This nation is at risk.
What do you think you're up to now, you perverted little liar?
I could smell the uranium on it as you lean towards the
most radical overhaul in the history of New Zealand's administration.
Juggernaut, the story of the Fourth Labour Government. Made with the support of New Zealand On Air. Listen now on the Spinoff or wherever you get your podcasts.
Kia ora, I'm Duncan Grieve, founder of The Spinoff. You can help us keep all of The Spinoff's award-winning journalism free for everybody by becoming a member today at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
The Spinoff Podcast Network.